He said it so calmly that it almost sounded rehearsed. I deserve to explore my options before I settle. That sentence echoed in my head long after Robert walked out of our apartment, his gym bag slung over his shoulder like he was heading to another workout, not walking away from 4 years of my life. I'm Olivia Hawkins, 28 years old, a software developer who once believed that love was something you could build if you were patient enough. I learned the hard way, some people only stay until they've used up the part of you that helps them grow. When I first met Robert, he was a small-time fitness trainer posting random clips from a crowded gym. His followers barely hit 2,000. But I saw potential. He had drive charm and that boyish grin that could light up a thumbnail. So I helped. Weeknights after debugging code for hours, I'd stay up editing his videos, adding captions, music transitions. He'd kiss my forehead and say, "You make me look better than I am." I thought that meant gratitude. It didn't. It meant entitlement dressed as affection. I bought his first ring light, his wireless mic, his gym outfits. When he couldn't afford studio space, I rearranged our living room into a makeshift set tripod backdrop, soft lights. He'd flex film post, and I'd sit on the floor with my laptop syncing audio and dreaming of the day he'd finally make it. He did, just not with me. The shift started subtle. His phone, once left on tables, began living face down. Dinner conversations turned into one-sided monologues about algorithms, collabs, and brand strategy. And the phrase that replaced "I love you" was, "My followers loved that post." One evening, I cooked pasta and poured wine, hoping to steal him back for an hour from his screens. He twirled the fork, absently, eyes glued to his phone. "Ryan says consistency is key," he mumbled. "We're planning a new challenge series. He wants Lauren in it too." I froze. Lauren Vega, the ex, the one who wasn't important anymore. My chest tightened, but I smiled anyway, trying to sound casual. "Oh, the same Lauren from your old gym crew." He nodded. "Yeah, but it's all business. She's got reach. Good synergy." Good synergy. I wanted to laugh, but the sound wouldn't come out. By our third anniversary, I thought maybe I could pull us back. I'd booked a weekend getaway at a cabin in Dalat Misty Hills, pine trails, a perfect digital detox. He'd once said he wanted to shoot sunrise yoga videos there, but 2 days before the trip, he bailed. "Lauren's organizing a collab shoot," he said, barely meeting my eyes. "It's a big deal. You understand, right?" I wanted to scream, "No! I don't understand why you'd trade our anniversary for your ex's camera lens." But I just nodded because that's what I always did understand. I went alone. The cabin was quiet, almost too quiet. The air smelled like rain and loss. I sat on the balcony watching fog swallow the hills, wondering when love had started feeling like waiting for someone who never showed up. The more his follower count grew, the smaller I felt. He'd scroll at dinner, laugh at DMs from other influencers, comment heart emojis under bikini photos for engagement. When I asked about it, he rolled his eyes. "You're overreacting, Maya. It's just networking. This is how growth works." Growth. That word again. Apparently love didn't fit into his growth plan anymore. I tried to keep up. New clothes, better makeup, pretending I cared about macros and aesthetics. But the more I tried, the less he looked at me. He started hinting that I was too predictable, that he needed adventure, that maybe he'd outgrown our comfort. That night, the night he said those words, I had cooked dinner again. Simple pasta again, as if repeating the same ritual could bring back what was already gone. He barely touched his plate. His phone buzzed endlessly until I finally said, "Can you please put that away?" He sighed dramatically, setting it down like he was humoring a child. "It's work, Maya. You wouldn't get it." "Try me," I said softly. He looked up, smirking the same smirk that used to melt me. "I just think I deserve to explore my options before I settle." The silence after that was thick, like the air itself didn't know how to move. Options. I repeated, my voice foreign to my own ears. "So what, the safe choice?" He shrugged. "You're stable, sure, but stable's not exciting. Lauren gets it. She's bold, spontaneous. She's got a vibe." That word again, vibe. A pathetic excuse for decency. I wanted to throw the wine glass, scream, beg, anything, but all I did was whisper, "So what am I to you, Robert?" He stood, slinging his gym bag over his shoulder. "You're comfortable, Maya, but comfortable isn't enough anymore." He left without another word. When the door shut, I didn't cry. Not right away. I just stood there listening to the hum of the refrigerator, the only heartbeat left in the room. Then I looked around the camera lights, the dumbbells, the half-eaten pasta, and felt something crack inside me. I unplugged his ring light one by one, like extinguishing pieces of our history. He wanted to explore his options, fine. But when he found his way back, there would be no map leading to me. I took out my phone, blocked him on every app, and whispered to the empty room, "If he wants to explore, I'll make sure he gets lost." The morning after Robert left the apartment felt like a museum of ghosts. His cologne still hung in the air, faint but stubborn, clinging to the curtains. I walked from room to room, tracing the spaces he once filled the dent in the couch cushion. The cup he never rinsed, the camera stand that still faced the wall. 4 years of my life reduced to silence. I didn't beg him to come back. I didn't even text. Instead, I opened my laptop and found a new apartment, a small studio on the other side of the city, with one window facing the hills. It wasn't much, but it was mine. By that weekend, I'd boxed up everything that reminded me of him, his gym merch protein tubs, the framed quote, "Hustle harder," that used to hang in the hallway like a shrine. I left it all neatly labeled for pickup. He didn't deserve my chaos. He deserved my indifference. Moving day came with the kind of rain that feels cleansing rather than cruel. The movers barely spoke, which suited me fine. By the time they left, I stood alone in my bare studio, just me, a mattress, a desk, and the hum of the city beyond the glass. That night, I lay awake listening to the rain tap against the window. For the first time in months, there was no phone lighting up beside me. No urgent notifications. No Robert. The silence hurt at first, but slowly it started to sound like peace. I threw myself into work. When pain has no outlet, productivity becomes anesthesia. My manager noticed the change immediately. I stopped clocking out at 6. I stopped turning down new projects. My brain needed something to fix, and code was cleaner than heartbreak. No arguments, no guilt, just logic and results. 3 weeks in, my manager leaned over my desk and said, "Maya, you're on fire lately. How do you feel about leading the next AI integration project?" I blinked, stunned. The same promotion I'd declined last year because the travel would have conflicted with Robert's filming schedule. Now it was mine, and I said yes without hesitation. That night, I celebrated alone, cheap takeout and a glass of wine. I looked out the window at the blurred lights below, smiling at the absurdity of it all. I had once postponed my own future to build his. Now, without him, mine was finally moving. Still, loneliness came in waves. Morning coffee tasted like memory. My bed felt too big. Sometimes I caught myself reaching for my phone to share a joke or a thought before remembering there was no one to send it to. But with every pang of emptiness, something else grew resolve. I started hiking again on weekends' trails I'd once saved for someday trips with him. The air was colder up in the hills, the silence heavier, but it didn't hurt. It healed. The trees didn't care that I was alone. The sky didn't ask questions. They just stood there, unbothered and endless. I joined a small outdoor group, mostly quiet people like me. That's where I met William, a civil engineer with an easy smile and a love for bad jokes. We hiked side by side, talking about everything but relationships. I didn't flirt, didn't plan, didn't hope. I just existed. And for the first time in a long while, existing was enough. Rumors reached me through mutual friends, uninvited but inevitable. Robert had gone public with Lauren Vega, the synergy he'd mentioned so confidently. Their feeds exploded overnight, matching gym selfies, couple workouts, captions about chasing dreams together. I watched for a second, then scrolled past, but not before noticing something. The smiles looked forced, the captions defensive. Every photo screamed performance. 2 weeks later, a coworker mentioned offhand, "Hey, isn't your ex that influencer who's getting dragged for fake sponsorships?" I shrugged. Was, not is. But curiosity betrayed me that night. I searched his name once, just once. The headlines were predictable. Fitness couple faces backlash over misleading giveaway. Comments flooded their posts, fans calling them plastic tryhards, fake love for clout. It was poetic justice I hadn't asked for. I didn't laugh, didn't gloat. I just stared at the screen until the irony sank in. The man who left me for excitement was now drowning in it. Weeks turned to months. My life found rhythm, again work hiking, sleep repeat. Every now and then, the ghost of Robert would whisper in my memory, but quieter each time. One evening, after a long day, I got home and found an unfamiliar number flashing on my phone. Unknown. "Hey, Maya, it's been a while. Can we talk?" I stared at the screen, heart thudding not from longing, but from disbelief. Robert. I deleted it without replying. The next day, another message came, this time a voicemail. His voice cracked with a practiced tremble. "I messed up, Maya. You were always the real thing. Lauren used me. I see it now. Please, Just coffee. I owe you an apology. I played it once, then again slower. It sounded like a man rehearsing regret not feeling it. So I pressed delete. And for the first time since he'd left, I laughed. Not bitterly, just softly, like someone who finally recognized the absurdity of it all. He'd left to explore his options. I'd found my peace. As I turned off my phone, the city outside was quiet. I thought about the version of me who would have answered, the one who still believed closure came from hearing sorry. She didn't exist anymore. Now, I didn't need closure. I was closure. 3 months. That's how long it took before I realized I hadn't thought about Robert for an entire day. Not even once. It hit me while I was making coffee my brain had finally stopped including him in every internal conversation. That was the first true victory. By then, work had become my anchor. The AI integration project was a success. My team delivered ahead of schedule, and my manager started looping me into executive meetings. The same woman who once canceled business trips to edit gym videos now stood in glass conference rooms explaining machine learning models to a room full of senior engineers. Sometimes I caught my reflection in those glass walls and barely recognized her sharper, calmer, and not waiting for anyone's approval. Still, ghosts find their way in through cracks. One afternoon during lunch, my coworker Jenna slid her phone across the table. "Did you see this?" she whispered. There it was. A video of Robert and Lauren, a staged apology vlog titled, "When You Lose Yourself for Love." They sat on a beige couch, faces tight with sincerity. Lauren's voice trembled as she said, "People online don't see the pressure. We just want to inspire others to keep chasing their dreams." Robert nodded solemnly. "We've learned a lot about loyalty and forgiveness." The comments section wasn't forgiving. "You cheated for clout. Stop acting like victims. Can't fake authenticity, bro." By the end of the week, their sponsorships started vanishing one by one. I didn't share it. I didn't even finish the video. But that night, for the first time in a long while, I allowed myself a small smile, not cruel, just satisfied. The universe had taken care of what I never had to. Around that time, William became more than a hiking partner. It started naturally. Post-hike coffees turned into dinners, and laughter replaced the silence that used to fill my nights. He wasn't flashy. He didn't talk about metrics or followers. He talked about books, road trips, and why people build bridges that outlast them. One evening, as we watched the sun dip behind the hills, he said, "You look lighter these days." I laughed. "You mean tired?" "No," he smiled. Like someone who stopped carrying things that weren't hers. Something in me softened. Not because I wanted a replacement, but because for once I felt safe being seen without having to perform. Still, life has a cruel sense of humor. The more peaceful I became, the more chaos found its way back. Mutual friends started dropping gossip like breadcrumbs. "Did you hear Robert and Lauren broke up? Apparently he cheated on her with another fitness model. Lauren's been ranting on her stories about fake men and toxic energy." I pretended not to care, but at night, curiosity tugged at me, like an old scar itching. I checked once her page, not his. Lauren's feed was a train wreck. Oversharing quotes about trust, crying selfies captioned, "He broke me," and cryptic reels about karma. It was poetic in a hollow way. Robert's account, once perfectly curated, looked desperate, now sponsored posts, dwindling, engagement tanking. His comments section had turned against him. Miss the old content. "Bro, maybe stop dating your co-collaborators. Downhill since Olivia left." That last one made me pause. I wasn't proud of the validation it gave me, but I'd be lying if I said it didn't sting sweetly. Weeks later, while waiting for a coffee at my usual spot, I overheard a familiar voice behind me. "Bro, I told him that collab was a bad idea. She tanked his brand." I turned slightly. 2 fitness guys from Robert's old circle were seated near the counter. One scrolled through his phone, shaking his head. "He's losing deals left and right. Sponsors don't want drama. Should have stayed with that developer girl. What was her name? Maria." "Maya," the other corrected. "Yeah, she was solid. Balanced him out. He screwed that up big time." I didn't turn around. Didn't need to. The universe had delivered the updates straight to my ears, free of charge. Later that week, William and I went hiking with our usual group. The air was sharp and clean, the kind that burns your lungs in the best way. Halfway through the trail, as mist rolled in from the valley, I stopped to catch my breath. William looked back, smiling. "You okay?" "Yeah," I said. "Just thinking how quiet it is up here." He nodded. "That's the point. Up here, everything that doesn't matter stays below." His words hit deeper than he probably intended. That night, as I drove home, I thought about how Robert once said silence made him uncomfortable. He needed noise, the constant buzz of attention. I used to think that made him passionate. Now I saw it for what it was, insecurity wearing ambition as armor. A few days later, my phone buzzed with another unknown number. I didn't answer. Then came a text, please. Just one conversation. No name, but I knew the rhythm of that desperation. I deleted it again. That evening, I got a DM on my work account, not from Robert this time, but from Lauren Vega herself. You think you're better than everyone, don't you? He's miserable because of you. I stared at the message for a moment, then laughed out loud, a deep, unbothered laugh that startled even me. I didn't reply. I just blocked her, turned off my phone, and went to bed early. Because the truth was simple, I was better off. Not better than them, just better than who I used to be. By the next month, word around the online community was that Robert had disappeared from social media entirely. His last post was a vague caption taking time to reset. The comments were merciless. You mean running from accountability reset, Elil canceled. I didn't care to check again. His reset wasn't my concern. Mine had already happened quietly, peacefully, and far away from anyone's feed. One morning, while hiking alone, I reached the top of the ridge and sat watching the sunrise spill over the city. The light washed everything gold, and for the first time I felt genuinely proud, not for surviving him, but for not letting bitterness define me. People talk about karma like it's revenge, but it's not. It's balance. Robert's downfall wasn't my victory. My healing was. It started with a number I didn't recognize. I was leaving the office, late rain, smudging the city lights outside the glass doors, when my phone buzzed. Unknown. Hey, Maya. I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but please, just 5 minutes. I owe you that much. I stared at the screen, the name missing, but the tone unmistakable. Robert. It had been nearly 6 months since he'd walked out with that gym bag slung across his shoulder, promising himself a brighter life. Now he was crawling back through text messages that smelled of regret and desperation. I didn't reply, not out of anger, just disinterest, the kind that comes after you've healed enough to see the pattern for what it is. That night, while brushing my teeth, another message arrived. I messed up. Lauren was a mistake. She used me for clout, for collabs, for followers. I see it now. You were the only real thing I had. He attached an old photo of us, one I'd deleted long ago, sitting on the balcony of our first apartment. His arms around me, both of us smiling at nothing in particular. The image didn't hurt like it used to. It felt like a museum artifact, something I could observe but not feel anymore. I deleted the message and went to sleep. The next morning, the calls began. Unknown numbers, each with the same voicemail, a sigh, then a pleading tone. Please, Maya, I just want to talk. I've lost everything. Sponsors, friends, even my apartment. I'm not asking for a second chance, just forgiveness. The irony nearly made me laugh. The man who once told me I was too stable now craved the very peace he'd thrown away. By the 5th call, I blocked the number. But he wasn't done. A few days later, my inbox pinged a long email, the subject line bold and self-pitying, I'm lost without you. Inside were paragraphs of emotional confetti. Apologies, excuses, and screenshots. His bank balance, his DMs filled with brand rejections, even a photo of his now empty apartment. He wanted me to see his suffering. I read none of it. Straight to trash. When someone burns a bridge, they don't get to complain about the swim. But Robert didn't understand that, because soon the messages began coming from other people. First, his sister, Maya. I know you two have history. Robert's not doing well. He's been drinking, talking about how much he misses you. Could you just meet him once for closure? Closure. That word again. As if I hadn't already built mine brick by brick, all by myself. Then came Lauren. Yes, her. I was halfway through a meeting when a DM popped up from her verified account. You think you're some kind of saint? You made him this cold. You turned him bitter. Congratulations. No punctuation, no grammar, just pure venom. For a moment, I just stared at it, the absurdity of being blamed by the very person who once liberated him. I almost typed a reply, something sharp, maybe poetic. But then I stopped. Because the greatest insult you can give a person like Lauren is silence. I blocked her, closed the app, and went back to my work presentation as if nothing had happened. Later that week, I met William for dinner. He noticed I was quieter than usual. You okay? He asked, setting down his chopsticks. Just echoes from my past life, I said with a half smile. They're loud sometimes. He studied my face for a second. Do you need me to handle anything? That made me laugh. What are you going to do? Out-hike them? He grinned, if that's what it takes. We both laughed, and just like that, the heaviness dissolved. That's what peace does. It doesn't erase the noise, it just makes you immune to it. But Robert wasn't done testing my boundaries. One rainy Friday, I came home to find a note slipped under my door. It wasn't handwritten, printed like an office memo. I'm sorry for everything. I just need to see you once face to face. I'll wait at the park on 5th tomorrow at 6 p.m. I folded the note and threw it into the trash. He could wait all night. He'd already made me wait long enough when I still believed he'd choose me. The next day, I didn't go to the park. Instead, William and I went hiking our usual route through the hills, mist thick enough to hide the world below. At the summit, as we sat watching clouds move beneath our feet, my phone buzzed again. A message from a different number. I waited. You didn't come. I guess you really don't care anymore. I looked at the screen, smiled faintly, and turned it off. I used to think love was about showing up for someone, I told William. He glanced at me. And now I think it's about knowing when not to. He nodded. That sounds like something someone who's finally free would say. I looked out at the horizon. The wind was cold, sharp, honest. And for the first time I believed it, I was free. A week later, mutual friends confirmed what I already suspected: Robert had hit rock bottom. Lauren had dumped him after he accused her publicly of ruining his brand. She clapped back with a series of teary Instagram stories that made them both look pathetic. Sponsors cut ties. The power couple became a cautionary tale overnight. He'd been couch surfing, begging for new deals, burning every bridge left to cross. One friend texted me privately. He's saying he misses the version of himself he was with you. I replied simply, he doesn't miss me. He misses who he was allowed to be when I still believed in him. Some nights I thought about replying, not out of forgiveness, but out of finality. Then I'd remember how it felt to sleep next to a phone that never stopped buzzing. How small I used to feel in the shadow of his ambition. And I'd realize I didn't need a final word. The story had already ended. He just hadn't accepted the credits were rolling. A month later, his last attempt came through a burner email. You can ignore me, but you can't forget me. You'll realize one day that I was the only one who truly understood you. I laughed when I read it. Out loud. The kind of laugh that comes from a place so healed, it startles even you. Because he was wrong. He didn't understand me. He only understood the version of me that revolved around him. And that woman, she didn't exist anymore. It was supposed to be a simple evening, a celebration for my friend Tom's engagement hosted at a rooftop restaurant overlooking the glittering skyline. I hadn't planned on going at first. Too many people from my old circle would be there, people who once double-tapped Robert's every post. But William insisted. You've worked too hard to hide forever, he said, slipping his hand into mine. It's time people see who you are now, not who you were. He was right, so I went. The night was soft and warm, the kind of breeze that carries laughter. Fairy lights twinkled above the tables, and the air smelled faintly of champagne and grilled seafood. William looked sharp in a navy shirt, and I wore a pale dress that made me feel whole. For the first time in months, I wasn't Robert's ex. I was just Olivia, smiling, laughing, living. Tom raised a toast, glasses clinked, and music swelled. Everything felt effortless, like my life had finally balanced itself again. Until I felt it. That prickle on the back of my neck, the unmistakable sense of being watched. I turned, and there he was. Robert. He stood near the bar, clutching a drink, like it was the only thing keeping him upright. His hair was longer, messier, his once proud shoulders slightly slumped. His face was thinner eyes ringed with exhaustion. The shine that used to follow him had dulled into something fragile and hollow. I froze for a moment. William followed my gaze, his hand tightening gently around mine. Is that him? He asked quietly. I nodded once. That's him. Robert noticed me then. His eyes widened, first shock, then something else. Shame, maybe, or regret. He walked toward us, weaving through the crowd. I held my ground. The chatter around us dimmed as whispers started spreading. Maya, he said, voice rough but loud enough for nearby guests to hear. Please, can we talk? Just a minute. I kept my tone even. This isn't the time or place, Robert. Please, he repeated, desperation bleeding into every syllable. I just need to explain. I noticed people glancing our way. Phones subtly lifted. I wasn't about to let this turn into another performance, his favorite stage. There's nothing to explain, I said quietly, but he didn't stop. He took a shaky breath. I ruined everything, Maya. You were right about her. About me. I lost it all. My deals. My place. Even my name. I don't care about that anymore. I just care about you. A lump formed in my throat, not pity, but disbelief. The man who once told me I was too stable was now craving the calm I'd built without him. Before I could reply, William stepped forward slightly, his tone polite but firm. She said, this isn't the place. Robert's eyes flicked toward him, and there it was, the bitterness. You're the new guy, huh? The replacement. William didn't flinch. No, just someone who knows how to stay. The line hit harder than anything I could have said. Robert's jaw tightened. You think you've moved on, Maya? You haven't. You'll always compare everyone to me. You know it. I smiled not cruelly, but like someone who's already healed. You're right, Robert. I do compare. And that's how I know I'll never go back. A small audible gasp rippled through the nearby tables. He blinked, stunned. You think you're better than me now because you have some office job and a new guy. No, I said softly. I think I'm finally myself now. That's the difference. Then, like bad timing scripted by karma, Lauren appeared. I almost didn't recognize her at first. Her once polished image had unraveled heavy makeup hiding exhaustion. A dress too tight for comfort, her smile brittle as glass. She hovered behind Robert, drink in hand, and slurred just enough to draw attention. So this is the famous Maya, she sneered, voice louder than the music. The one who thinks she's some moral goddess. Tom's fiancé, bless her heart, tried to step in. Lauren, maybe? But Lauren waved her off, eyes locked on me. You act like you're above all this, but you love being the victim, don't you? Poor little Maya, the betrayed girlfriend who got her glow up. The crowd had gone still now. Phones were recording. I stayed calm. You should sit down, Lauren. Oh, don't act like you care, she spat. You ruined him. He's a mess because of you. William exhaled sharply. No, he's a mess because he thought other people existed to fix him. Lauren's face twisted, and for a second I saw it the full collapse behind her bravado. Her words stumbled, her mascara smudged, and her hand trembled as she tried to point at me again. You'll both regret this, she whispered, before turning abruptly, nearly spilling her drink as she walked away. Robert just stood there, deflated, the last of his pride crumbling in front of everyone. He looked at me with glassy eyes. I have nothing left, Maya. No home, no friends. I just wanted a chance to start over. My voice stayed steady. You had that chance the night you chose to leave. He swallowed hard. Please, I'm begging you, don't do this here. You did this, I said quietly. You brought this scene to a place where people came to celebrate love. Maybe you wanted an audience again. He flinched. Here's your spotlight, Robert, I added softly. Use it to remember what you lost. Tom, awkwardly protective, stepped closer. Maybe it's time you head out, man. Robert's lips parted like he might argue, but the weight of every staring eye seemed to crush him. He nodded, once muttered something unintelligible, and turned away. The door closed behind him, leaving only the murmur of guests trying to pretend the night hadn't shattered for a few minutes. I stood still, my heartbeat loud in my ears. William placed his hand on my shoulder. You okay? I nodded slowly. Yeah, just done. Later that night, after the laughter slowly returned and people began dancing again, Tom found me by the railing. She's a wreck, you know, he said softly. Lauren. Lost her brand, deals her followers. Half the influencer world's unfollowed her. Heard she's crashing on couches now. I didn't smile. I didn't need to. She'll find her own way, I said. Or she won't. Either way, that's not my story anymore. Tom raised his glass. To new stories, then. I clinked mine against his, to endings that don't need revenge. Across the rooftop, William caught my eye. That quiet, grounding smile of his, softening the world around me. As I walked back to him, I realized something. The story that once defined me had finally ended. Not with a grand confrontation, but with a quiet truth. Robert's downfall didn't heal me. Walking away did. The videos hit social media within hours of the rooftop incident. Clips of Robert's outburst, Lauren's drunken rant, my silence. One version had over 300,000 views by morning captioned, Influencer meltdown at engagement party X stays classy. I didn't repost it. I didn't even finish watching. But the comments found their way to me anyway. She handled that like a queen. He really thought he could walk back into her life after that proof that peace is louder than drama. It was surreal the internet that once idolized him was now applauding me for doing nothing. But I hadn't done it for them. I'd done it for me. Robert disappeared from social media after that night. No apologies, no explanations, just a vanishing act that felt overdue. Lauren tried to capitalize on the chaos. She uploaded a tell-all vlog, crying about betrayal, name-dropping him in every sentence. But people had grown tired of the theatrics. The views trickled down. Comments turned brutal. This isn't healing, it's performance. Girl, take a break. Maybe stop blaming everyone else. The influencer duo that once symbolized goals became a cautionary tale of what happens when validation replaces love. I didn't gloat. I didn't celebrate their downfall, because what I had wasn't revenge, it was release. I deleted my old photos for good, cleaned up my folders, and for the first time didn't feel like I was erasing memories, just clutter. The past stopped feeling heavy. It became background noise like the hum of a train passing by. A few weeks later, William and I hiked our favorite trail again, the same one I used to take alone when I was trying to piece myself back together. This time the air was lighter, the path familiar, but new, like it had waited for me to return when I was ready. Halfway up, William stopped to tie his shoe, then looked up at me with that quiet smile of his. You ever think about what you'd say to him now if you had to? I thought about it for a moment. The versions of me that had rehearsed that question were long gone. I'd thank him, I said finally. William raised an eyebrow. For what? For teaching me the difference between love and dependency, I said softly. For showing me that sometimes losing someone is the only way you find yourself again. He smiled, eyes warm. That's very poetic. I chuckled. It's very true. When we reached the summit, the city stretched beneath us, golden lights shimmering under the evening sky. The same city that once held my heartbreak now held my peace. I sat on a rock, closing my eyes as the wind brushed through my hair. For a moment, I let the past play one last time the night Robert walked out the messages, the humiliation, the rooftop confrontation, all of it looping quietly like an old film reel. And then I let it fade, because I didn't need to rewrite the ending anymore. I'd already lived the sequel. That weekend, I journaled again, something I hadn't done in months. The first page read, "Peace isn't loud. It's the sound of not checking who's watching." I wrote about my job, my friends, the places I wanted to travel next. Not once did I mention him. That was when I realized healing isn't about forgetting someone. It's about remembering yourself before they rewrote you. A month later, I bumped into one of Robert's old acquaintances at a tech conference. He recognized me instantly. You're Maya, right? Robert's ex? I hesitated for a second before answering. I used to be. He laughed awkwardly. Yeah, right. I heard he moved out of the city. Doing some personal training gig up north. Low-key stuff. Doesn't post anymore. I nodded, polite but detached. When he walked away, I felt nothing. Not sadness, not relief, just nothing. That's how I knew it was truly over. That night, William and I had dinner at a quiet rooftop cafe. The city hummed below us, distant but alive. He raised his glass toward me. You know I never told you this, but when I first met you, you looked like someone waiting to exhale. I smiled. And now? Now he said you look like someone who finally learned how. I looked at him, really looked, and realized that this was what love was supposed to feel like. Steady, patient, and real. No competition, no performance. Just peace that doesn't ask to be earned. Before bed that night, I checked my phone one last time. No missed calls, no messages, no ghosts, just quiet. I stood by the window, looking out at the city lights, the same view I used to share with Robert, except now it wasn't haunted by memory. It was just mine. And in that silence I whispered, he explored his options. I discovered my peace. Then I turned off the light.